You've got 105.9 Talk Erie WZTE on your radio here, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio at 406. And we're having the crucial conversations that Erie needs, and that includes talking about saving lives. And with us here is Mary Rogers. She's the Executive Director of the American Red Cross Northwestern Pennsylvania chapter. Mary, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. We're a family show, like the origin stories. How'd you come up and how'd you get involved in this type of work here?
Well, I was working. I had an office in the American Red Cross building that used to be in Corey.
Okay.
And the director of the Red Cross was going out to a fire, and she didn't have anyone to go with her. So she asked me to tag along. And I went with her and watched what she did and was hooked from there, just wanting to help people.
Sure. And, define what the Red Cross usually does in the case of a family losing their home like that through fire.
So the first thing we do is usually the fire department or 911 will call us and let us know that there's a family that needs assistance. And we, usually as volunteers responding to that fire, we give them the means to get a hotel room, food, clothing, and then we work with them for other things as they recover from the fire. But the initial need is to provide them a safe place to stay, food, clothing if they need it, medical if they need prescriptions, eyeglasses, things like that.
Wow. And that's like a quick turnaround, isn't it?
Yeah. We usually respond most times within an hour, but sometimes
Seriously.
2 hours of being notified.
When you think about all the fires and the families that you've dealt with, have many of them just lost everything, or do they usually are they able to go back and get photo albums? I mean, what's usually remaining, I guess?
Every fire's different. Some of them are complete. There's nothing left they can salvage, and other ones they're able to salvage some of those things. It just depends on where the fire starts and where those items are kept.
Right, because you could still get kicked out of your home and have just a lot of smoke damage, right?
Correct, yeah.
And just you're replacing furniture and needing to do a big cleanup and something.
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
So you guys are in whatever on the continuum of destruction, you're playing a part there at the Red Cross.
Yeah. If a family is displaced from their home due to fire, then we will respond to that.
Well, why you're here today is not necessarily in a reactive mode after a fire actually happens. You're trying to prevent damage and fires and loss of life, aren't you?
Absolutely. Our Sound the Alarm program has been in existence for over 10 years now. Across the country, we have put in 2.5 million smoke alarms.
Wow.
And we really are doing that. It's not only about putting working smoke alarms in homes, it's about teaching the family about fire safety and having a fire drill if they have children in the home and having a meeting spot outside. So it's multiple things.
Yeah.
It's not just the smoke alarms.
So fire drill and meeting place.
Yes.
Those are kind of some big bullet points here, right?
Yes.
Interesting. I would think that fire safety is, let's not do some of these things that we might do that are just going to leave you more vulnerable, like not having a GFI outlet in your kitchen, for example, or not using an extension cord on a space heater, or not using a space heater if you can get away with it, right? I mean, that seems to be one of the worst things, doesn't it?
It's one of them.
Yeah.
And we go over those, the higher risk things that people do, like leaving your kitchen when you're frying something.
Oh,
Kitchen fires constitute a lot of home fires. So we talk about that. We talk about not putting extension cords under rugs, not overloading the outlets, all of the things that, most people are aware of. But when we're in a home, we can look at those situations and say, I can give you an example. I was in a home with an elderly woman who had mobility issues. The kitchen was in the back of her home. She had no working smoke alarms, and the front door was blocked by the way her furniture was in the living room. So I said to her, if you had a kitchen fire, how are you going to escape the house because you don't have access to your front door? So those are the kind of conversations that we have, just to make people aware. You really need to think about this, because if this happens, we want you to be able to get out of your home.
It seems like so intuitive to me, but not everybody thinks that way. They feel, I've got this couch, it won't fit any other way. I'm going to put it in front of the front door, and I'll just use the back door for in and out.
But
well, that's problematic.
It is.
Good Lord. Oh my gosh. Okay.
But I felt so much better when we walked away, because at least she had working smoke alarms. So
yeah, well, there you go. Right. Did you help her move the couch?
I asked her if we could, but she didn't go that far.
She wasn't going that far. Wow. Yeah, the extension cord thing is another. I mean, we had that horrible fire back in 2019 with the overnight daycare.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they had working alarms or they weren't connected. Like, there was a problem with the alarms for that. But just having that extension cord under a carpet was just a brutal thing.
Yeah.
And that was in the summertime.
Yeah.
Unreal. So you're starting on Saturday to do, or I'm sorry,
Friday.
On Friday, excuse me, to do this event. Tell me exactly what this looks like here this spring for the Sound the Alarm event.
So what we do is we meet with a group of volunteers. We have the Erie Fire Department is working with us. Okay. Some Erie insurance employees are coming to help us, and Red Cross volunteers as well. And right now we have, I believe, about 24 appointments. So we will do those first.
Okay.
And then while we're in a home, we will be knocking on doors to left and right of whichever home we're installing, and trying to get, other folks to let us in to install these smoke alarms.
When you go into this a neighborhood, because you're going into 16503, right? What do you think? What's your typical percentage of people that do have working alarms and that are have enough of them? Because when I buy alarms, I buy 5 at a time, because they have to be in the upstairs, down, that kind of thing.
There should be at least one on every level.
Every level, yeah.
I don't know the exact percentage.
But your gut says
maybe 25% have
working.
Enough and working.
So 1 in 4 have them, and 3 and 4 don't.
Correct.
That's a shocking statistic to me.
I won't tell you what town I was in, but I was in a town. We had none of the homes I went into, absolutely none of them had smoke alarms, working smoke alarms, not one.
I'm sorry. This is stuff that we've had for 40, 50 years. How does that happen? I mean, I think they came out in the 70s or early 80s, right?
Yeah.
How does this happen?
I guess people don't make it a priority.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you when I knew you were coming is some people don't read the fine print of saying, hey, this smoke detector is no good after 10 years. Like, it kind of wears out.
Right.
It's not like it's totally dead, but even if you have a fresh battery in it, it may not pick up after 10 years, right?
Yeah, they're not nearly as efficient after 10 years. The alarms that we're putting in have a 10-year lithium battery, so you don't change the battery. After 10 years, it gets thrown out and you put a new one up.
That's what I went to those back in 2014, so I'm on my second batch that I put in last year. Same thing with the carbon monoxide detector. It was like a 10-year, set it and forget it, and every once in a while hit the test button. Very loud.
Oh, yeah, they are loud.
So this is priority work.
Yes.
when you guys do this Sound the Alarm event, because more often than not, you're going to encounter an apartment or a home without smoke detectors. And what's shocking to me, again, Mary, is that we have this apartment inspection program in the city of Erie. And so when the inspectors come through every other year, they're pressing buttons. That stuff is supposed to be working in those rentals.
Correct. And I'll be honest with you, we haven't done one we did one at the West Bay front. We didn't do a lot of apartments in that
So
one.
you're mostly doing owner occupied.
Well, we can do either. I mean,
Okay.
the program is to help save lives.
Sure.
So, if there's a renter that doesn't have smoke alarms or they're not working, we're happy to put them in.
But most of the time you're hearing from the owner.
Yes.
Like the owners.
Oftentimes it's owners.
Okay. Well, that kind of makes me feel better that hopefully the renters,
Yeah,
that the
hopefully.
landlords are handling that.
Correct.
Wow, though. And you're well, let me take my break, but you are going to be launching from the armory and kind of fanning out from there. Is that how
Yeah,
that's working?
absolutely. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
why we chose that location, because we could start there and make our maps and where each volunteer group was going to go from that.
Are you looking for more volunteers for?
We can always, the more we have, the more houses we can touch.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah. Before I go to break, why don't you tell us how somebody could volunteer for this event on Friday here?
They could call the office at 814-833-0942 and hit the 0 option.
Do they need to know anything? I mean, as long as they could swing a screwdriver, right? I mean,
Right, yeah, they have to and do a lot of walking.
a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do they carry a little step stool with them usually?
Usually if depending on where the appointments are, if they're far apart, then we drive a vehicle. If not, if it's all in one street, then we might just take a wagon down through and do everybody.
With everybody.
Yeah. It just depends on how the appointments are
Makes a
set
lot
up.
of sense. Mary Rogers is our guest here from the American Red Cross. We are taking a break. We're back in 2 minutes here. It's the Joel Natale Show. Having these conversations that save lives is pretty amazing. Let's talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. Mary Rogers, the executive director of the American Red Cross, Northwestern Pennsylvania, chapter here. And I feel, Mary, this is an opportunity here while we're on the radio to just kind of continue to share best practices. I know we're getting out of the winter, but my furnace will be on until Memorial Day more than likely, right? And so, that whole thing, like with space heaters or falling asleep, or leaving the bacon on the stove, or frankly falling asleep with a cigarette in your mouth. It's all problematic.
It is.
It is. So the idea of kind of thinking, kind of being prepared, how they tell us to drive defensively, you can kind of live defensively against fire. Certainly.
Absolutely. And for us, preparedness is, almost a bigger part of this than response, because if people don't have these fires, then they don't have all this trauma in their lives.
Wow. Yeah. You could tell the stories of how lives have been shattered because of fire, either through loss of life or loss of property or.
Absolutely. I've been on many fire calls, so it's very sad to see someone standing there watching their home burn.
And I would imagine you're encountering these, and the fire is no respecter of neighborhoods. Probably more than likely in the higher end neighborhoods, you're going to see less because it might be newer systems and things, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they're non-existent.
But they're not. There's still fires in Fairview.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, right? Are there other things that, let's say, organizations and in other, I'm thinking of churches, other places where people congregate. Is there stuff there that the Red Cross kind of says, hey, be mindful of things, or if you can maybe be a partner with the Red Cross. I'm thinking about emergency shelter and stuff like that.
Absolutely. We can always use more people to help with sheltering or open up their facility if it meets certain criteria, because we look for larger, especially in Erie, because if we had something major happen, we're going to need a large-scale shelter.
Oh, okay. So you kind of keep an inventory of what could be a possibility for an auditorium, for cots and...
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and we have disaster trailers that have cots, blankets, comfort kits, all those things ready to go, so that if we get called to open a shelter, we just hook onto that trailer and head for the location.
Did you guys have to get involved with Snowmageddon here?
We had 3 partner shelters open during that, yes.
How did that work? Like, who was coming to those places? They were warming stations
mostly, but we had people that were stuck here that were traveling that
on 90.
Couldn't get anywhere, so they're just stuck. So yes, I think we had 3 open.
Wow.
1 on each side, 2 on this side of town and 1 on the other side.
Right.
From people coming different directions and just, dead stop with all the snow.
Yeah. And how does that work with your volunteers? You just have a team that responds?
Do. And that one, unfortunately, a lot of our volunteers couldn't even get out of their own homes. So most of it was the fire departments were running them, and we were just supplying them with the things they needed.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
That was a bad one.
Yeah. How about your response as an Erie or Northwest PA Red Cross to some of these more national disasters? I'm especially thinking of like North Carolina. You sent a crew down there?
We send many volunteers to national. Yeah. Just some of our volunteers want to do national deployments and others don't, but we have people that'll go to a national deployment. 2 weeks later, they rest for 2 weeks, and then they go again to something else. I was actually in Asheville, North Carolina, and in South Carolina after Hurricane Helene. So,
what did you see there? How could you describe
utter devastation. It was
from the mudslides and all that. The water.
The water. Any place there was even a little tiny stream turned into the raging rapids. Homes destroyed, businesses destroyed. Part of downtown Asheville was completely submerged.
And that's a beautiful town too. At least
Yeah.
it was.
And when I was there, probably 3 weeks after landfall, they still didn't have water they could use. I think it took them quite some time to get there. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And the Red Cross can do only so much. FEMA has to do the heavy lifting. The state of North Carolina has to do a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we raised a lot of money for especially North Carolina, but also Florida. So I know that we're still providing financial assistance to many of those families.
Oh wow. Okay. And the same thing would come up here if we had something.
Absolutely.
The good thing is that we tend to not get those huge natural disasters.
We've been very lucky.
Yeah. I mean, probably the old timers probably would remember the Albion tornadoes,
Yep.
but that's probably the last major loss of life and
Yeah.
major damage that way. All right, I'm coming in for a landing here, and I think we're kind of covering everything. I want to make sure that we do, though. The Home Fire campaign has helped save at least 2,284 lives since launching some 11 years ago with this Sound the Alarm event. And so, again, there's still an opportunity for people to volunteer to help install these fire alarms. And how many are you hoping to place, you think?
We're hoping at least 150 alarms.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. And there's still an opportunity for people that might want to make an appointment for you to come to their house
Yes,
to get a hold of you
absolutely.
guys? How do you do that?
The number is 814-240-7667. Leave your name and address, and we will confirm with you.
Fantastic here. And again, this is all happening with financial help from partners like Erie Insurance, Halmet Aerospace, NiSource, Columbia Gas, UGI, UPMC Hammett, and UPMC Health Plan, EQT, FedEx, and MSA Safety. You got a lot of friends over there, Mary.
Thank goodness.
That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming on because like I said, this is just one of those things I'm a stickler about, and everybody needs to be. It doesn't matter. You just never know when
You never know. You
when
can't.
a connection goes south on you or something.
And you only have 2 minutes to escape a burning home. So if you don't have those smoke alarms, it's not a good outcome.
Yeah. Wow, my goodness. I appreciate it. Again, Mary Rogers, the Executive Director of American Red Cross, Northwestern Pennsylvania Chapter. I hope you have good weather. I think you might on Friday.
No rain would be good.
That would be fantastic. All righty, stay with us. You are tuned to Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show as we motor along here on a Wednesday afternoon. And again, the good work of so many, including the Red Cross, is so much to be appreciated here.